Ladies and gentlemen, the bears are back in town for Palantir Technologies as we see lots of bearish articles being released, even some highlighting the low price targets for Palantir at about $5. We're going to be talking about this in just a few moments. Of course, this all comes after yesterday's trading session when Palantir had about a 10% correction due to just the fear of one single possible Army contract that could be re-signed at a shorter term and at a lower value, as it's going to be set to expire here in just a few weeks. And with this uncertainty, you see a lot of volatility, and really you see the bearish media articles being published over and over again. We're going to be breaking these down. Now, if you're new to the channel, hit the like button, subscribe for daily videos. We've been following Palantir, and of course, I'm not a financial advisor. Take everything I say with a grain of salt. I'm just collecting all the data and dispatching it to you. And Palantir actually does a great job today in terms of its trading. Quickly looking here at the global markets, we see the Dow Jones, S&P 500, NASDAQ basically all consolidating about the day. NASDAQ a little bit in the green, S&P 500 basically at 0%, Dow Jones just a little bit here in the red. And Palantir does a good job consolidating down about 1%, but in the trading session actually only 0.5%, and does a great job holding this support at the 18s. In yesterday's video, if you didn't see that, we talked about how the testing of this $18 level of support, this is after we saw the Q3 earnings rally and the gap being created, and we saw a quick support being established here. If we test this and are able to keep the support, this will be important for Palantir to try to re-push to that $20 resistance. However, on the flip side, if we see more of a bearish and cascade event coming from people that are really trying to short the stock, then we could see increased profit taking and possibly testing that $18 level of resistance again. So tomorrow and the rest of this week are going to be very, very interesting and critical for Palantir going into the end of the year. Now let's quickly get into those articles, and quickly, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, just looking at the options contracts, we actually do have a decent amount of options volatility for call volumes at the end of this week. Here in the 19 and even in the $20 strike price, volumes that are over the puts by expirations at the end of this week, which is showing that a lot of investors are having confidence that Palantir will have held this $18 level of support. Now look at this. NASDAQ puts out this article right here from NASDAQ.com talking about, is Palantir stock really headed to just $5 per share? Now let's just take a moment. Imagine Palantir at $5 per share. I tell you that if it were to some reason drop over 70% to that value, I think we're going to have a lot of people that are going to be buying a Palantir at $5, because I don't know if we'll see that price again. But hey, you never know in more of a speculative type stock. Now, right here what this article really talks about is talking about the soaring that we saw in November, of course, after the Q3 earnings. And people keep talking about this here, that this William Blair, the analyst, noted that the Palantir's 4-year contract with the U.S. Army that's worth about $458 million is up for renewal. And talking about that, the skepticism that the renewal could be significantly less. And this is could be. We don't know. Nothing is set in stone yet. This is all just fear and uncertainty as it's looking to diversify across multiple vendors. Now, of course, you're going to have competition with these AI data analytics software, but I think Palantir, and what I believe in Palantir, is that they have been a leading competitor and have been ahead of the race compared to all these new data analytic companies that are utilizing AI. Palantir, even though it's only been publicly traded for about 3 years, has been in this game for over 20. So being a couple decades into the actual business is important. And talking about Palantir Technologies right now, I think getting further away from just governmental contracts is important as they are able to diversify their clientele into multiple industries. This can help get their feet wet in many different sectors, which this way, when you have some of these contracts that say maybe aren't renewed at a higher price or aren't renewed at all, this doesn't cause such a large uncertainty or fear among the actual stock, creating a lot of volatility and sell off. And Palantir is doing a great job actually with diversifying its commercial clientele. We saw this with its year-over-year commercial revenue and also its commercial customer count. Great to see those metrics that are continuing to increase, and I hope they increase for the next quarter. And talking about that, we've seen success in this already, especially with their AIP bootcamp, telling with how many customers that they are onboarding, but also with the recent successful contract signing of that NHS UK deal. Now, talking about this, what is the target price for Palantir stock? That is a big question. One thing that we can't ignore, I don't care how bullish everybody is on Palantir, is that right now it is trading at a very high valuation at about 70 in terms of its forward price to earnings ratio. This does come with a lot of criticism along with its decelerating revenue growth rate, but some people argue that, hey, this is just maturity within a company. I can see both sides of it. But talking about Palantir, where we are right now, the average price target for Palantir with all the analysts that we bring together is at about $14.65, which makes sense because Palantir, in terms, if we were to come back down here, Palantir does like trading between these 14s and the 16s. It feels comfortable there. We've seen trading history with Palantir. We've seen long-term consolidation between the 14s and the 16s. So settling back down in this area, I think would not be totally out of the ordinary if we were to see any type of a large correction in the global markets and affecting Palantir specifically, things that could individually happen within the company. But talking about Palantir, we do have a few that are recommending, of course, as a strong sell, talking about the low price target of $5, which is set here by RBC Capital. They also came out and they described that the NHS contract was underwhelming. So you can tell that this analyst right here, this firm already does have a bearish approach. Basically, a lot of bullish articles that we've seen here, they're kind of playing the flip side of it. So, of course, they have every right to. Everybody has the opinion to what they think these contracts are actually bringing in terms of trendiness and hype behind Palantir, which is high right now. We need to take that into effect. But coming down into $5, I think is a long stretch in my opinion. And I think I would be incredibly happy if Palantir were to come down into $5, to tell you that. And I think a lot of bulls would be really happy about that. What we see in terms other than that is the Zacks rank, which is hard to get a strong buy rating, ranks Palantir as a strong buy. And why, people might be wondering, even though we're seeing this value score of F, this coincides, of course, with that high valuation like we talked about a few moments ago. But however, they have a growth score of A and a momentum score of B. And one thing that the Zacks score really likes to take into consideration when deciding to put a grade to these stocks is actually looking at their earnings per share revisions. And we've continued to see bullish revisions in the last 90 days, not just last quarter. We saw a ton of bullish revisions. We've already seen revisions in future guidance improvements for 2024 for Palantir, which is great from a very highly reputable that a lot of people do depend on the Zacks score for credible rankings. On top of that, you have Kathy Wood that is also here on top of this article talking about buying these AI stocks that could help you become richer in 2024. Palantir Technologies is on the top of the headlines right here. That ARK, which is the ETF that is managed by Kathy Wood and her team or business, blah, blah, blah. They own a whopping 9.4 million shares worth of about 151 million. Now, talking about that and why this investment really does fit into Wood's investment strategy is because the ARK ETF is meant to invest in these disruptive technologies, and AI is known or is predicted to be one of the biggest disruptors in terms of technology and also taking market share from different sectors over the next decade. And Palantir is doing a really good job coming into that space. And like I said, being a leader in the space right now, sitting at a market cap at 39 billion. We don't hit that mega cap status even until you hit 200 billion as kind of the standalone number for Palantir. So where we're sitting right now, I think is great for Palantir. Holding support at these 18s. We'll see if this holds. If it doesn't, we could see consolidation back into the 14s and the 15s. Great dollar cost average point, or even people sitting on the watch list that have Palantir as a long-term growth or a long-term stock that they want to hold in their portfolio, could be a decent run up there. And God forbid if this thing comes down to $5, I think people will be alone in their bags. I don't know if that's going to happen, but what you're seeing is a flip in momentum and emotion right here. Just remember a few weeks ago, we saw articles bullish, Palantir going sky high, 52-week highs to the 21. You have articles coming out saying, hey, is Palantir being the next Microsoft? Next week, we see a little bit of uncertainty with this contract from the Army. You got one analyst that comes out with it saying, hey, they might be looking into different, spreading out basically into different vendors. This value might not be as high. And you see articles coming out saying, hey, is the low target for Palantir $5? This shows you the emotion that plays into the market. I think there is no doubt about that, which is why I think no matter what your perspective is on the market, bullish or bearish, and specifically looking at Palantir, it's important to really not let some of these articles take over your decision. It's important to make your own decision and do your own research. It's something that we always stress, and basically don't even take everything with your own grain of salt. Even coming from me speaking about Palantir every single day, it's important to make your own investment decision at the end of the day, because at the end of the day, it's your own money. So that's all what I have for you guys. Interesting to see what happens here. I want to know in the comments, do you think Palantir is going to come down into the 14s and the 15s over basically in the next month here? Or do you think Palantir is going to come back up into the 21s, testing those 52-week year-to-date highs? I want to hear what you guys want to talk about in the comments. Peace out. I'll catch you guys later.